So muscle tissue have a couple characteristics that are important, that they contract with force. That way you can move your skeletal system and able to move your body. And it will move the entire body and also is responsible for pumping blood. And there's 3 different types: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. And skeletal muscle is attached to the skeleton, to your bones. Or it can be attached to some other kinds of connective tissue. And it's striated, meaning banded. We'll look at some pictures and you'll see these bands that are on the skeletal muscle. And it's voluntary. What does voluntary mean? You can move them yourself. You can decide that you're going to move them. You can't, it doesn't just do it automatically. Sure. Cardiac muscle is the muscle of the heart. It is also striated, but it's involuntary. So you can't make your heart speed up or slow down by deciding, just saying, okay, I'm going to speed up my heart rate. You can do something like hold your breath, which causes a response from your heart, but you're not controlling your heart rate. Your heart rate is automatically changing in response to gas level buildups. Let's see. Your diaphragm can be voluntary or involuntary. It can be both.
What's striated mean again?
Striated is, we'll look at a picture and it look banded. We'll see like stripes in it. Smooth muscle then is associated with tubular structures and with the skin and with organs. It's non-striated and it's involuntary. So the walls of the blood vessels and digestive system are smooth muscle. And then in your skin you have muscles called erector pili that are attached to your hair follicles, and that's what gives you goosebumps. So those are involuntary and they're smooth muscle.
Why do some people get goosebumps but you can't?
Just the way you're made. Like it's just probably a genetic response. I would say that your parents would be more apt to be quicker to respond or get goosebumps easy too. So just a genetic trait. In response to cold usually. If you have a lot of hair, like people with hairy backs, no, but like animals with a lot of fur, it helps because it gives you more insulation with air and keeps you warmer. In humans, it doesn't really do a whole lot. See, and everything always says that is goosebumps do not make your hair grow faster. But I agree. It makes it prick. It does. But yeah. I'm sure you have that problem, Caleb. That's just a chart of the different types of muscle. Then here's our picture. Here's skeletal muscle. So striated, you see the bands. It looks striped, so that's what striated is. And skeletal muscle makes up approximately 40% of your body weight. They have long cylindrical cells with several nuclei per cell. You can see that picture here where you can have a couple different nuclei. And then it's striated also. Cardiac muscle is also cylindrical, but it has many branches off of it. And the cells are connected by intercalated discs, which are just help move action potential down the cell a little faster and a little better so that the heart can pump as a whole, and it helps in the pumping action. Branched intercalated disc, yep. And then smooth muscle is non-striated, so we don't, in this picture you don't see the bands like you did the other. And it's tapered at each end, so it's kind of fat and then tapered at each end. And it's part of the digestive tract, emptying the urinary bladder, moving the blood through vessels. So Neurons are the nerve cells, part of your nervous tissue, and they have the ability to produce action potentials, and so have a muscle contraction, stimulate a muscle contraction. And there's 3 different parts to a neuron, and that is the cell body, which has the nucleus. And then you have this long axon, looks like a tail coming off the body, and that is what carries an impulse away from the cell body, and there's usually just one per neuron. And then dendrites are kind of fingery things on the front of the neuron where the impulses come in. It receives impulses, and then it sends the impulse through an axon. And then there's also neuroglia, which are support cells. They're usually wrapped around the axon, help insulate it, help nourish, protect the neuron. So there's a picture here of a neuron. So here's the cell body, and then these are the dendrites branching off of it and receiving impulses, and then here's the axon one leading out from the cell body. And then you can kind of see those cells that are wrapped around the axon, those are the neuroglia. And actually the last thing today is membranes. And we've talked a lot about serous membranes before, like the pericardial membranes, parietal, visceral, pericardium, and that the peritoneum and pleural membranes. But there's also mucous membranes, which line the cavities that open to the outside of the body, and they secrete mucus. And what kind of cells secrete mucus? Goblet cells. So it has goblet cells in that membrane that secrete mucus. Then the serous. We talked about that, where it has some squamous epithelium, but we've talked about that in is that chapter 1? I think chapter 1. And then synovial membranes are lining your joint cavity, and it has synovial fluid inside of it, and that's just to help reduce friction and help your joints move smoothly. And it's what you sometimes call a bursa sac, the bursa of your joint. Your hinge joints, then those are synovial membranes, the synovial fluid. And, yep, that's it. We aren't going to go into inflammation. We'll do inflammation and finish up the chapter on Thursday.